Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. In today's video I want to show you a great Python package that allows you to convert a Python function into a LaTeX function. So as you can see here on my screen, in line 11, I have a Python function, and then here on the right side of my screen you can see that I have the same function but written in LaTeX. So let me show you that if I change the coefficient, for instance from a 2 I change to a 3, let's run the code, and then I'm going to run the compilation, and then you can see that it's updated in the LaTeX document. I think this functionality is amazing because for someone like me that writes math equation inside Python and then he wants to convert them and publish a scientific document, this is fantastic. And why it is fantastic? Because we can test the Python function, use test. Let me actually show you an example. So if I go in project, I already wrote a test. Now we are going to run the test, and of course the test will fail because we have changed the coefficient. So this I think is fantastic because we can ensure that our function is synced across both our paper and Python, so we are 100% sure they will get it right. Plus, this Python package is going to save us a lot of time. So let me revert back and to the right coefficient. Let me actually recompile the document so you can see on the right side that everything should be working. So we go here, we compile the LaTeX document, so everything is working, so fantastic. So I'm going to go quickly through their documentation because I think it's fantastic, and then I'm going to add one simple example which I think is very beneficial, and the example is going to show you how actually to change the variable name based on our needs. Because Latexify-py allows us to change the variable name, but then eventually it doesn't always work as I wanted, so I just show you a very simple workaround. So let's start first with Latexify-py documentation. So as they say, they suggest you to install it on your system if you have not done it already. In my previous example, as you can see here from the bottom, I am using Python version 3.11, and the Latexify version that I'm using is 0.3.1 as they suggest in their documentation. And I'm actually printing these two information here in the code, that's why you see them here in my Python console. So after you install Latexify.py, you can import a few packages and then you define a function here. So they have this solve function, and then they show you what you can do. Please be careful that this is very important, so this decorator is very important if you just want to show it here in the console of a Jupyter notebook. I personally don't like to use Jupyter notebooks, so what I'm going to be using mostly in my example is this function here at the bottom, but let's go in steps. So here you can see the different things. As you can see that the function is still working, so if you call print and then you pass argument to the function, it's still working despite it has this decorator. You can also print the function itself, and this is going to return the LaTeX code. And if you are in a Jupyter notebook, only if you're in a Jupyter notebook, with the math.jx, it displays the function very well. So there are a few types of styles, so it doesn't have to be always displayed as a function. It can also be shown as an expression. So it doesn't output the signature of the function, so the name of the function basically, but is going to only the core of the function, so what is in the return argument. Another very nice thing that is the one that I'm always using is I'm not using the decorator in front of the function, but I'm using the Latexify get LaTeX, and the output is the same as before when we use just the print of the name of the function. This is also another great example which shows you with an if statement how it's going to be looking like in your LaTeX document, and also it shows you if you have else if nested, so you have an if, else if, and an else. I think honestly this package is amazing, and I'm using it already in all my scientific papers. Another very nice thing is that if you name the variables properly with the proper Greek alphabet, Latexify straight away, if you pass this argument to the decorator, is going to substitute the variable names alpha with the Greek letter alpha, which again is very useful. And here it shows you how to define custom identifiers. I'm going to show you in a little while how to even improve this and change the variable names. So for instance, here we have my function called my function, and my inner function is called in this way. So that's what we are returning, and returning the argument. So we are passing an argument to the function, and we are returning the same argument but with a different function name. So here we can map my function to f, my inner function to g, and my argument to x, which is great. We also can reduce the assignment. So here we can see that for readability we want to say the discriminant, the numerator, and the denominator. So we want to split them, so it's going to be easier to maintain and read the function, but then eventually that wouldn't look very nice. But with this reduce assignment equal to true, we can actually plot the show the function in LaTeX in a very nice format. It shows us also the matrix support and the algorithmic. So these, we have seen the expression, we have seen the function, but also it has the algorithmic. Important note for the algorithmic, when you're going to be importing in LaTeX, I'm going to show you in a second, so how you actually import that code inside. When you have an algorithmic style, how you're going to be importing inside LaTeX. So this is it for their online documentation. I just want to show you a couple of more things, and I think already this is fantastic, and I'm sure also you will be using it in your scientific paper, but I want to show you a couple of more things. Let me go back here, and we are actually going to cancel all these equations in my directory. So as you can see, I'm inside a directory called python-function to LaTeX. So actually we can delete this one. So here we have a directory which is empty at the moment because we cancel everything. So we have the output from the LaTeX compilation, and then we have my code, and then we have test my code, which is always very important that you test your code. So let's run the LaTeX file here, and if you want to learn how to write a LaTeX file directly inside PyCharm, I have a video on YouTube, and I would highly recommend that you watch that one. But basically, we're going to run the Python file, the LaTeX file, sorry, and we're going to get an error, of course, because we have deleted all the equations. So the LaTeX file is very simple. It uses, this is important that you get alg pseudocode as a package. So that's also another addition that I want to let you know that you're going to be needing it. And then basically it has a section which says equation, and then we are displaying the for equation. So the first thing that I want to show you, because then we're going to be closing this document here, is that when you're importing a function or an expression, you can use the input, okay? You can input what Latexify generates, and you can put it inside a begin equation or a begin math argument. So it works both in begin math and begin equation. The only difference is that when you have begin math, it's going to be in line with your text. When it's going to be within a begin equation, is going to be in a new line in the center, and is going to have also an equation number. On the other end, when we are importing the algorithmic, we don't have to wrap it inside a begin math. We can just put it like this in in just with an input. So let's go to my code, and I've already shown you the test, but that's very important. So let me show you what I have here. So I have import Latexify, I have import numpy, I'm importing the style because this is going to be very important for us. We are going to be using this Latexify get LaTeX, but then we can pass the style, which we know, and we enforce what we want to get, if we want to get an expression or if we want to get a function without having to put the decorator. So the first thing that we are going to be doing, and as I show you here, we have nothing in the equation. So we are going to be running the first line of a few lines of codes, and then we are going to be generating this equation.text. So now in a second, it just takes a little bit of time, we have this equation and we have save it over there. So how I save it is very simple. You can just open a file, so with open, and then you open this file as a file with writing, and then we write in the file, we write what? The argument of directly Latexify get LaTeX, and we pass the function name followed by the style. So here I also created a wrapper. I'm going to share all this code with you just to make it a little bit more readable. So instead of having to write this with open every time, I just created this function which says save function to LaTeX. So we are passing this argument, which is function. We are specifying the name that we're going to give to the equation. And then we're going to be passing the style, which is a style of a function, but that can be changed. So this is the default. And also we are saying identifier none. And I'm going to show you in a second what are identifier. Then inside here we have a with open, so it's the same code that we have here, and then we have the write. So what is the advantage is that in future, if you want to save the function to LaTeX, we just call this function here without having to write 2 lines. It's just something very minor. But here we pass the function, we pass the equation, we pass the style of function, which so far we have seen it, and also we pass the identifiers. So in this case, we're going to save it equation 2, and this is how it's going to look like. So let's go here and have a look at the equation 2, and let's see what we get. So if I reload from disk, now we have equation 2, and we should be able to, let me just split the screen. So what we wanted to have is that actually the file name is HCF, so there is a little bit of an error. So let's rerun this function here, and then let's see what we get. So we want to remap this name H_CF. We want to call it HC, and this is actually identifier is working very well. So we're calling HC, and we want to change the argument of the function from var. So we want to change it from var, we want to make it basically a capitalized var. So let's do that because there was a small error, and we can see that it has changed to var. And this is great because version 1 of the function, which we just save it straight away like this, it didn't have these changes. So this is fantastic. However, if you want to have a more complicated name or variable style, I've realized that this identifier, it doesn't really work very well. So let me actually expand this, and then I'm going to show you all the output. So in this case, I want to actually call the variable var, which we're going to change it like this. We want to replace it with v, and then we want a subscript r. So I've tried with this identifier and wasn't working for me. So the solution that I found is you just export the function with the get LaTeX of Latexify, and then you just do a simple string replacement. So here we are passing the function argument here in get LaTeX, and then we say h-cf, we are going to be replacing with h and then subscript cf. That's how we're writing in LaTeX. So let's run this line here. We shouldn't have run this one again, but that's fine. So we can see that equation 3 now, we have it as we wanted. So actually no, as you can see there was an escape here. So let's see if that has worked, and actually we can do it like this, so we can see what we get here. So actually we will have to replace this, and this is good that we are doing it as I'm showing, because actually I should have tested before, but let's do it again. So if I do this and then I open, yes, fantastic. So as you can see now it has worked. And the reason why, because when you have like these backward slash, sometimes it escapes this character. So you can see that now we are going to get H and then subscript CF and V subscript R. I'm going to run the LaTeX code in a second, I'm going to show you. And then finally, let me save this equation 4. So now that we can uncollapse these things, we can move this page here on the left, and then we can run the Python code, sorry, the LaTeX code. Now we can see that everything is working properly. So with the identifier, we didn't really get what we wanted. Let me show you again that at least in my case wasn't working before when I tried. So if I do this, and then see, I'm getting like a value is not an identifier name. So I'm getting this strange error because it doesn't allow me to do that. So why don't we just use simply the replace string, which is much better. So for instance, if you want to have the V, which is not capitalized but is lowercase, we are going to be rerunning this line 3, this equation 3, which we didn't get an error, and then we recompile the file, and now we can see that everything is fine. Here we got a problem because before it was getting like some issues. So let me run again this one. So this is going to update. So with the identifier, we don't have as much control as the string replacement. So this is the only addition that I wanted to add to their great documentation. I hope you will find this package useful as I do. If you like this video, please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel. It really means a lot to me. And also, if you find this video useful, there might be someone else that might find this video useful as well. And you, by liking this video and subscribing to my channel, the YouTube algorithm is going to recommend this video to other people as well. Also, if you feel very generous and you want to support this channel, which releases all the video for free, you can also buy me a coffee or support me on Patreon. I would really appreciate if you could do that, but don't worry, if you don't have the means to support this channel, you can always leave a like and subscribe that you can do for free. Thank you very much for your time and have a great day.